Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Ricky's in London. Today I will be taking you on a tour of the Tower of London, one of my favorite buildings in the city. So we are going to start with a stunning view of the Tower of London. There is a lot of information coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, the only castle in London built in the time of the Norman conquest. Now we all know the execution inside the tower, but quite interestingly, there were very few executions inside the tower, and anybody that was imprisoned there, including Elizabeth I. I often think how she must have felt knowing that her mother had been executed in the tower while she herself was imprisoned in there. Also, Sir Walter was present in the same tower, but it was really kind of reserved for the upper echelons of society. They did live in quite considerable comfort when you were imprisoned in there, particularly if you were rich. They paid for their privilege now. Sir Walter Raleigh spent 13 years there, and he lived in there with his wife and two children, and he was served very good food and wine most days, I believe. He even grew tobacco inside the Tower of London on Tower Green. But the majority of execution that we know about inside the tower, of course, would have been Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, and the famous 9-day queen, Lady Jane Grey. They are buried inside the tower. They say that Anne Boleyn still haunts that chapel where she was buried. Also, Catherine Howard and Jane Grey was buried in the same chapel. Apparently, Anne Boleyn walks around there holding her head in her hands. It's also rumored that Sir Walter Raleigh haunts the Tower of London, can be seen smoking his pipe on the ground. But you might not be familiar with one of the most brutal executions inside the Tower of London. That was the execution of Margaret Pope, otherwise known as the Countess of Salisbury. And here is a bit of a background information on her. She was one of the last remaining Plantagenets, and she was in favor with Henry VIII and the court. Initially, she was a devout Catholic and also close companion of Henry VIII's first wife, Catherine. In fact, she was a governess for a period of time to Queen Mary, who later became Princess Mary, who later became the infamous Bloody Mary, which we spoke about in Smithfield Market. However, when Henry VIII decided he wanted to divorce Catherine in the Catholic Church and was refused by the Pope, he decided himself supreme leader of the Anglican Church or the Church of England. Now her son was an outspoken, he was opposed to Henry VIII, and which was a treason act at the time, and we all know how sadistic Henry VIII was. So he fled into an exile. His name was Reginald Pope. Now, trying to accept his revenge on Reginald Pope, he could not quite accept his revenge on him as he was exiled in Europe. So he decided that he would accept his revenge on his family members, including his mother, the Countess of Salisbury. She also refused to acknowledge himself as supreme head of the Church of England. So she was arrested and her properties was seized. Thomas Cornwall actually searched her property. In a criminal trial for her, she was convicted of treason because he produced the shroud of tunic of 5 wounds of Christ, evidence of that tunic, while a replica of it in her home, which actually confirmed her devotion of Catholic. 6 months after the trial, this piece of evidence was logged. She was convicted of treason and she was sent to the Tower of London. Now she spent 2.5 years here been brutally interrogated, and in the end, he decided he was going to execute her at the age of 65 years old. Now she was brought to the tower, as I mentioned, in 1539, and of 27th of May 1541, a brutal execution began. Now a inexperienced executioner was brought to chop a head off, and he missed, and she jumped up. Apparently, the story goes from the execution block and fled around the tower until he eventually hacked her to death with the 11 blows of the axe. A brutal end to the Countess of Salisbury. Now, contrary to popular belief, the majority of public executions did not take place in the Tower of London. The last public execution took place here on the 15th of August in 1941. That was a German spy in the name of Joseph Jacob. He parachuted in here to London during World War II, but the majority of executions took place right ahead of you, up here where this tree is located, on Tower Hill. So, would you have been taken from your prison cell to the main exit of the Tower of London? You would have been marched up to Tower Hill, where you see the rowdy drunken mob and commoners, as they call themselves, all coming to celebrate the great public execution. They would have thrown rotten fruits at you, and they would have sweared at you. They would have called you wild names, and you would be facing your execution up here on Tower Hill. So, a terrifying walk to your final death. Now, we have mentioned before that execution was a great festival. In fact, they were like bank holidays or public holidays. This is the Church of Old Hallows by the Tower. For my American friends, William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, was baptized here. John Quincy Adams, the sixth President of United States of America, married his English bride in here. The reason we know, of course, so much about the Great Fire of London to this day. Witness the great fire from the very steeple of that Church of the Old Hallows by the Tower. I just want to show you a 2000-year-old Roman wall, and you can see this yourself. There is a Roman soldier there, so here is the statue I believe to be the Roman Emperor Trajan. This is the evidence of a Roman wall that was built 2000 years ago. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please do like, comment and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.